Hello and thank you so much for joining us on Business Now, where we take you through details of financial happenings within the country in the last 1 week. My name is Chinaemerem Joseph. On this edition, we will be looking at a number of disturbing economic issues. Virtually all indices are in the reds. Crude oil price is still falling, greatly affecting Nigeria's expected revenue generation for the year 2020. And also economies around the world are also badly hit by the fall in crude oil price, worsened by the spread of coronavirus. Meanwhile, inflation rate has also jumped up to 12.2% as seen in the recent report released by the National Bureau of Statistics. These issues have led to both fiscal and monetary authorities putting in place measures that will help reduce anticipated economic risk. But how well really will they work? Before we go further, let's stop briefly at the newsroom to share some developments with you. And to the newsroom now, where the price of Brent crude oil, the international benchmark, extended its decline, trading below $27 per barrel. Brent, against which Nigeria's crude is priced, fell by $1.40 to $28.68 per barrel, as at 8 p.m. Nigerian time on Wednesday, its lowest since January 2016. Now, the 2020 budget, which was signed by President Muhammadu Buhari in December 2019, was based on oil production of 2.18 million barrels per day, with an oil price benchmark of $57 per barrel. On Tuesday also, the Naira exchanged to the dollar between 365 Naira to 375 Naira at the Bureau de change segment of the market. And to this special report, where the price of crude oil has continued to fall in the past few weeks, leaving analysts predicting that another economic recession is imminent. The tumbling prices, which could fall below $20 per barrel, is bad business for an economy that has continued to build its fortunes around oil. Crude oil price has in the past few weeks dropped sharply from above $60 per barrel. The situation is critical as at the time of filing this report, Brent crude, against which the Nigerian oil is priced, has fallen below $30 per barrel. Now, various factors are being blamed for this major crash. Demand has dropped because of the spread of coronavirus across the world, which is believed to have in turn sparked a series of price cuts. Secondly, a price cut free-for-all has also broken out globally following the collapse of an OPEC Plus alliance over a week ago. The chunk of Nigeria's expected revenue in the 2020 budget was hinged on oil production of 2.18 million barrels per day with an oil price benchmark of $57 per barrel. Unfortunately, this appears no longer feasible as even Nigeria currently struggles to find buyers for its crude oil. But what does all these really mean for Nigeria?
We are going to lose about between 50 and 60% of the projected revenue. And the unfortunate thing about it is that aspect of the revenue also facilitates the realization of non-oil revenue. The implication is that we may not even be able to service our debts in the long run, because currently we are using about 53% of all our revenue earnings to service debts.
This is just the third month in the year, and economic watchers are already seeing gloomy days ahead. They think government has relaxed too much in the corridors of oil and must begin to take necessary action in ensuring diversification of the nation's economy.
We failed to learn from previous downturns in the price of crude oil. For instance, the one of 2007, 2008, it's up to early 2009. We should have learned from it. It's going to be a very huge challenge for the country unless we're able to take reasonable steps to make sure we ameliorate the loss in terms of plugging the leaks, those leaking points, recovering monies that are due to the treasury, and of course, cutting down the overbloated governance structure.
Government must surely sit up in the coming months, as already the 2.64 trillion naira expected revenue from oil is unachievable, at least for now. The federal government on Wednesday announced a slash in the 2020 budget by 1.5 trillion naira as part of measures to respond to the impact of the coronavirus on the economy. Included in the 1.5 trillion naira is over 457 billion naira the government spends on fuel importation under the name of Under Recovery. The government's panel, set up to assess the impact of coronavirus on the economy, made the recommendation already approved by the President, Muhammadu Buhari. Now, the committee is chaired by the Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Mrs. Zainab Ahmed. Other members are the Minister of State, Petroleum Resources, Mr. Chinaemerem Silva, the Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele, and the Group Managing Director of the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, Mr. Mele Kyari. Nigeria's oil managers, the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, has reduced the pump price of petrol from 145 naira per litre to 125 naira. Now, President Muhammadu Buhari approved the price reduction after the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Chinaemerem Silva, briefed him on the matter. Well, the government directed the NNPC and the Petroleum Products Pricing Regulatory Agency, that's the PPPRA, to work out the details immediately. He added that the pump prices of diesel and kerosene would also be reduced. The minister, Mr. Silva, said the NNPC would roll out all the new prices immediately. And in complying with the directive, the Group Managing Director, NNPC, Mele Kyari, said that the corporation had reviewed its ex-coastal and ex-depot prices for petrol accordingly. Meanwhile, the Executive Secretary of the Petroleum Products Pricing Regulatory Agency, PPPRA, Abubakar Saidu, says the agency will, from the 1st of April 2020, announce the price of fuel monthly. Well, in this report, I will be explaining that going forward, market forces will determine the selling price of fuel, which will be communicated monthly to Nigerians by the agency. The huge crash in oil price globally has necessitated a number of adjustments in Nigeria's oil and gas industry. First was the reduction in the price of fuel from 145 naira to 125 naira across all fuel stations in the country. Secondly is the move by the federal government through the Petroleum Products Pricing Regulatory Agency, PPPRA, to commence the modulation of fuel price based on market forces of demand and supply.
The approved price of 125 naira per litre comes into effect from today, following which is going to be what we're going to apply till the end of the month. Then from the 1st of April, PPPRA is going to be modulating a monthly price of petroleum products based on the market fundamentals.
Already, a major challenge the government will encounter trying to seamlessly achieve this is the level of cooperation from marketers and players in the industry.
Wherever there's price increase, everybody will jump and be selling at the increased price. But where you tell somebody to reduce price, normally the complaint is that I've already kept a stock of product based on the old price. Currently, this is part of what we are discussing with the marketers.
Also, getting fuel stations across the country to comply by selling only the approved price is another challenge, as there are reports of non-compliance. And just as soon as the Executive Secretary of the PPPRA is done with his briefing with journalists, a team from the agency steps out, a monitoring team, to observe the level of compliance in the nation's capital. And lo and behold, a stop at this filling station shows that they are still selling at 145 naira.
For every 10 litres you are selling, you are actually dispensing about 9 litres. But you're looking at what the place up until they come and change this meter. Tomorrow.
Warnings have, however, been given out to all fuel stations to ensure compliance, as sanctions would be meted out to defaulters. The Presidential Advisory Council on Tuesday warned about dire economic consequences for Nigeria if the raging coronavirus outbreak was not contained as quickly as possible. The council, which is chaired by Professor Doyin Salami, met with President Muhammadu Buhari at the State House, Abuja. It said one of the immediate consequences, as shown in the crash of crude oil prices, was slower economic growth, adding that confidence in the economy would also be eroded. Now, the council, which urged the president to consider immediate cuts in the budget, observed that ultimately Nigeria risked receding into another recession if concrete measures were not evolved to stabilize its economy. The Central Bank of Nigeria has announced policy measures to tackle the impact of coronavirus on the economy. Well, prominent among the measures announced by the governor of the Apex Bank, Godwin Emefiele, is a 50% reduction on all intervention funds provided by the bank.
The coronavirus pandemic is having significant adverse consequences for both the global and the Nigerian economies. It has already led to unprecedented disruptions in global supply chains, sharp reduction in crude oil prices, turmoil in the global stock and financial markets, widespread cancellations in sporting, entertainment and business events, lockdown of large sorts of movements of persons in many countries, and intercontinental travel restrictions across critical air routes all through the world. These outcomes have had serious adverse implications for key sectors, including, but not limited to, oil and gas, airlines, manufacturing, trade, and consumer markets. In furtherance of its financial system stability mandate, the Central Bank of Nigeria is committed to providing support for affected households, businesses, regulated financial institutions, and other stakeholders in order to cushion the adverse economic consequences of this pandemic on our people. Accordingly, the Central Bank of Nigeria hereby announces the following policy measures. But before I go into the details of that, as you may know, the Central Bank of Nigeria, operating through our deposit money banks, has close to about 3 trillion naira in various forms of intervention facilities, either through Anchor Borrowers Program, through our Commercial Agricultural Credit Scheme Program, through our Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises Program, or through our AXMIS Program. Since we do expect, and it's dawning on everybody, that as a result of this pandemic, that revenues that will accrue to businesses, particularly to even run their business, not to talk of even revenues that will accrue to them from where they pay their bank loans, have become so short. Naturally, we expect that there will be difficulty by businesses to service their loans. So we make the following propositions, amongst many others that we'll be making from time to time as we proceed in this journey. 1. Extension of moratorium. All the Central Bank of Nigeria intervention facilities are hereby granted a further moratorium of 1 year on all principal repayments effective March 1, 2020. This means that any intervention loan currently under moratorium are hereby granted additional period of moratorium of 1 year. Accordingly, participating financial institutions are hereby directed to provide new amortization schedules for all facilities for their beneficiaries. 2. Interest rate reduction. Interest rates on all applicable Central Bank of Nigeria intervention facilities are hereby reduced from 9% to 5% per annum for 1 year, effective March 1, 2020. 3. Creation of a targeted credit facility. The CBN hereby establishes a facility through National Microfinance Bank to the sum of about 50 billion naira for households and micro, small and medium enterprise-sized enterprises that have been particularly hit by COVID-19, including but not limited to hoteliers, airline service providers, healthcare merchants, and etc. 4. Credit support for healthcare industry. To meet potential increase in demand for healthcare services and products, the CBN hereby opens for its intervention facilities loans to pharmaceutical companies intending to expand or establish their own drug manufacturing plants in Nigeria, as well as to hospital and healthcare practitioners who intend to expand or build healthcare facilities to first-class standards. This is in addition to growing the size of our existing interventions to the agricultural and manufacturing sectors in Nigeria. 5. Regulatory forbearance. The CBN hereby grants all deposit money banks leave to consider temporary and time-limited restructuring of the tenure and loan terms for businesses and households most affected by this outbreak of COVID-19, particularly the oil and gas, agric, manufacturing. The CBN would work closely with our deposit money banks to ensure that the use of this forbearance is targeted, that it is transparent and temporary, whilst maintaining individual DMB's financial strength and overall financial stability of this system. What are we saying here? You took a loan from a bank because there's a drop in your revenues arising from the adverse consequences you're suffering as a result of COVID-19. We're saying that the banks have been granted for a dispensation where they should be able to restructure your loans for a longer tenure, so that what you're going to be repaying to the bank as either principal plus interest, even this is even aside from our intervention facilities, whatever you're going to be paying to the banks, either as principal repayment or loan repayment, is reduced substantially because of the fact that your loan would have been restructured for a longer tenure and possibly at lower interest rates, so that your business can remain alive.
Also, the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele, has announced the addition of 100 billion naira to the 50 billion naira intervention fund it initially announced. Now, these are part of measures to scale up response to the coronavirus outbreak. Well, the new fund is in addition to 6 initial palliatives announced by the Apex Bank a few days ago. The recommendations from the just concluded consultative roundtable forum organized by the Central Bank of Nigeria, Ongoing for Growth 2.0, are topping measures used by the Monetary Authority to scale up the country's response to the outbreak of coronavirus. Just a few days ago, 6 palliatives to ameliorate the impact of the pandemic on the Nigerian economy were announced by the Apex Bank. Notable among the measures is a crash in the interest rate on all CBN intervention funds, including the provision of a 50 billion naira fund to support small and medium enterprises. The Apex Bank has just also added another 100 billion naira to the soft loans.
To support health authorities to ensure laboratories, researchers, and innovators work with global scientists to patent and/or produce vaccines and test kits in Nigeria to prepare for any major crisis ahead. First, the CBN is directing all deposit money banks to increase their support to the pharmaceutical and healthcare industries.
The continued impact of the pandemic on global demand and supply has also led to an increase in the Apex Bank's intervention of 1 trillion naira in boosting manufacturing and strengthening other critical sectors of the economy.
Management of the CBN will meet with the Bankers Committee this Saturday at 10 a.m. at Lagos Central Bank of Nigeria office to work out the modalities. I already set up our own situation room to monitor what is happening in global financial markets.
The CBN has advised all commercial banks to have an effective business continuity plan to ensure operations are undisrupted as the Apex Bank continues to monitor developments on the pandemic and design appropriate monetary response. You're still watching the program Business Now. We'll be taking a short break, and when we return, we'll bring you some more business reports. To join us again. And then the National Bureau of Statistics on Tuesday said that the Consumer Price Index, which measures inflation, rose by 12.20% year-on-year in February. The inflation rate of 12.2%, according to the Bureau, is 0.07 percentage points higher than the 12.13% recorded in January. The 12.2% index is also the highest recorded by the economy in the last 21 months. For food index, the report said this rose by 14.90% in February compared to 14.85% in January. It attributed the rise in the food index to increases in prices of bread and cereals, fish, meat, vegetables, and oils and fats. Meanwhile, the financial analyst Ezonyekpere has reacted to the continuous rise in inflation. He thinks the federal government is not doing enough to control it.
We have our production in even agriculture. We are not meeting up because of insecurity and a lot of other challenges. And even the crude oil projections for last year, we are not able to meet it. And the foreign direct investment coming in, capital importation, there's evidence that it is diminishing year after year. So, and the country is not quite productive in terms of goods and services. So it is bound to happen that way, that inflation will shoot up. So that's the natural process of the economic mismanagement that has gone on over the years. So it's expected. All of it is going to be in the next couple of months.
Any reaction from the fiscal side? What should they be doing to help in?
Well, the government says they want to review the budget. I think that they should, if we had got the excess crude account working well, we wouldn't be in this situation because we have had something to fall back upon in terms of savings. So this is also an opportunity for us to rethink what we are doing with oil revenue and how we manage it going forward.
And then no fewer than 6,000 candidates have been shortlisted to undergo interviews and screenings for the 2020-2021 Overseas Scholarship Scheme of the Petroleum Technology Development Fund, PTDF, across the 6 geopolitical zones in the country. At a press briefing in Abuja, the head Overseas Scholarship Scheme Division, PTDF, Bello Mustafa noted that successful candidates would have the opportunity to study for MSc or PhD in partnering institutions either in France, Germany, China, Malaysia or the United Kingdom.
We've received over 25,000 applications and we shortlisted over 6,000, but spread across the 6 geopolitical zones of Nigeria where the interviews will take place. Well, we call them panelists. You know, they're the ones that will do the interview. We usually use 90% of our old scholars that have graduated with a PhD, you know, excellent scholars, and they're the ones that will conduct the interview.
I've been following the program for like 3 years from now, since 2007. So I saw every year I usually apply for the advert. This is the first time that I've been called upon to participate in the exercise. I'm expecting to make it to the final stage so that I will help in local content development.
I've applied before. This is actually my 3rd attempt and my 2nd invite. So my motivation for applying to this program actually comes from the need to develop management capacity.
Let's now bring you some graphic details of business transactions within the country. And it's here we wrap it up on Business Now. Thank you so much for joining us on the program. Join us again, same time next week. My name is Chinaemerem Joseph. Bye for now.